Community Television presents Senior Happenings. Our host is Tricia Ayers. We will be talking about heat emergencies and hydration. And now to the studio for our program.
Hello everybody and welcome to Senior Happenings. My name is Tricia Ayers and I will be your host today. I think this topic is so timely. I don't know about everybody else, but I am so ready for it not to be so hot. Even in good old England, my mom was telling me they're dealing with 100-degree temperatures too. I don't know what they're doing over there because there's not any air conditioning in the home, so we're lucky in that respect. So I'm very excited about my guests today. I have two wonderful guests. My first guest is Laurel Shepherd, who is the Education Director for Kendrick, Finchner, Hydration for Life. Laurel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Good. And also we have Battalion Chief Ronnie Crupper from our Vista Fire Department. Ronnie, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you came.
I'm glad I came too.
So we're going to talk about the heat. Okay, Ronnie, tell us what should we be doing to protect ourselves from the heat right now, especially outside?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing and the biggest point we'd want to make is to make a plan. So anytime you're going on a hike or going out to the lake, you want to go down fishing, whatever it is, if you're outside, even working in the yard, even a short trip, even a trip just around the block, we never know what could happen, you know. So you want to make sure that people know where you are, especially during the day. You know, when the temperatures get up into the triple digits, the heat index is 10 degrees higher than that. So, you know, and just the dryness, and you can get dehydrated quickly and not even realize it. Mm-hmm. A lot of us are pretty bad about drinking coffee in the morning, as I'm doing right now. So, you know, you may say, well, I'm going to have a cup of coffee and then go for a walk. And a cup of coffee is not hydration. It's actually the opposite. So I always say make a plan. Make sure somebody knows that you're going out for a walk. If you have an iPhone, there's a great app called Find My iPhone. If you share that with a loved one, they can pinpoint exactly where you are. There's other devices out there as well that you can purchase that can track where you are. But just make sure you make a phone call or stop by the neighbor's house and say, hey, I'm walking around the block, or I'm going to go down this trail. If you don't see me this afternoon, could you send somebody? Yeah. And then have water with you, and have enough water. You know, taking off on a mile-long hike with one bottle of water is not going to cut it. That you're going to go through that pretty quick. So, you know, just be prepared. That would be my advice.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
Like the Boy Scouts.
Like the Boy Scouts.
Like the Boy Scouts, be prepared.
They were onto something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Laurel, please tell us a little bit about the nonprofit that you work for first. Yes. How it came about and why it came about.
And what we do. Okay. Yes. So we are a nonprofit that have served the Northwest Arkansas community for 26 years now. And our mission is to promote proper hydration and prevent heat illness through education and supporting activities.
That is correct. I wrote it down.
Oh, perfect.
Pass that test. I love it. Yes.
Yes, so we came about when Kendrick Finchner, he was a 13-year-old boy in Rogers, and he passed away from a heat stroke after attending football practice in August. Very hot, very humid. And so this foundation was started to help educate people so that a tragedy like that didn't have to happen again.
Good. Not good that it happened, but good that we have that foundation. And how long have you been with?
I've been with the foundation for about 2.5 years now.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about you? You are being a good person
I came prepared.
Today. Yes,
so
yes. Ronnie, not so much. It's the do not do and do situation. So what should we be doing to hydrate and stay hydrated? And especially our seniors.
Yeah, so I think, with seniors, you're automatically at a higher risk for dehydration due to a number of factors. I mean, as we age, we have a lower volume of water in our bodies to start with. Also, certain medications can cause dehydration. Also, our thirst sensation diminishes over time, and so seniors may not even realize when they're thirsty because their body's not sending them those signals. So I think just being aware that there's an increased risk for our seniors, I think that's good for them to keep in mind. And then the three things that we like to encourage are to prehydrate, hydrate, and rehydrate. So before you go out on that walk, before you go to the golf course, before you go play pickleball, whatever your activity is, make sure that you're hydrating before that. So you're showing up ready to go, energized, hydrated. And then when you're there doing that activity, it's really important to make sure that you're hydrating. You're taking those breaks, taking a break in the shade, drinking some water, and hydrating during that activity. And then just as important to rehydrate at the end. After you've sweat and you've lost all of that water, it's really important to replace that. So prehydrate, hydrate, rehydrate.
I love it. I hate to bring this up though, folks. You know, as you get older, people either need to go to the restroom a lot more. So the first thing they do is they go, well, if I don't drink as much, I won't need to go as much. And we know that's not true. So how do you think we encourage, especially seniors and younger kids too? I mean, younger kids, how do you encourage people to drink more? I drink no water. I really have to struggle with, okay, I've got my coffee in the morning. How do we encourage people?
I think you bring up a good point. And I read a statistic the other day that I think like 20% of people in the U.S. don't drink any water in the day. Like they only drink coffee or sugar sweetened beverages and such. And so it is a concern for people to be drinking more water. And I think one way to encourage people is to encourage people to carry water with them wherever they go and to know how much they should be drinking, which we say half your body weight divided by 2 are the liquid ounces for you. So if you are 140 pounds,
I'm way behind.
70 ounces a day should be drinking. So I think knowing how much you should be drinking can help you set goals and to keep track throughout the day to make sure that you're hitting those goals.
Okay. Could I do popsicles?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can do popsicles. That's a good option for the summertime to help cool off.
Yes. Popsicles.
It's good compromise. I mean, there's lots of healthy beverage choices that we can make. Water, obviously, 100% fruit juices, smoothies. Sports drinks are important if you're going to be like exercising for a long period of time and sweating a lot. Those can be a good option as well. Okay. Milk, get some calcium for your bones and teeth. And so there's lots of healthy beverage choices that we can make in addition to water.
So we can just do better, basically. We'll do better. So you were talking about being out, making sure that somebody knows that you're going out. Right. I think Bella Vista is pretty good as far as neighbors are concerned, but I think sometimes, especially the seniors, we have a changing population now, and maybe they don't know their neighbors. You know, then who do they reach out to?
Yeah, the demographic has changed immensely, and you could even call our non-emergency dispatch line. Okay. And just let them know and say, hey, look, this is my name, this is my address, I'm going to go for a hike.
Right.
Would you mind giving me a call in 4 hours? They'll be happy to do that. We actually have a process in place where we can do wellness checks on neighbors that they sign up for. It's just for one of our officers to stop in the morning and make sure you're doing okay. But yeah, I think it's very important to let somebody know where you're going. It makes it a lot easier on us to try to find you if you get lost, especially in this heat.
Yes. And you heard that, folks, that the gentlemen and the ladies at the fire department do not mind. You are not bothering somebody. Please.
We don't mind. And, even to expand on that, if you do take a walk, a lot of our seniors and even non-seniors aren't familiar with these trails that we've built. And we have about 140 miles of them. And they may start off as a nice little trail through the woods, and you're like, oh, this is nice. And you can see the squirrels, and you're in the shade for the most part because you're under the canopy. And then the next thing you know, you're on a ledge because these trails are built for extreme mountain biking. So I would be very careful about what trails you decide to go off on. There's all kinds of maps that you can get that show the trail and show the difficulty areas. My advice would be to just stick to walking trails that are designated for walking. We have miles and miles of those as well. So
So maybe a good idea would be to, in your phone, put in the non-emergency number to the fire department, which is
855. Sorry, I'm looking at the camera.
Yes.
855-8249. It's our non-emergency number.
Right. So plug that in, and then if you were in a true emergency,
911.
911.
Yep. Sure. But if you want to call and just let them know, where you're going,
Yes.
they're happy to take that information
Right.
and just write it down. And then if you come up missing, they can say, hey, she actually called earlier, and
Yes.
yeah, she's on this trail, or she went, to Tainted Creek. Or,
Right. And you don't have to be a senior to do that.
Nope, you sure don't.
It's probably something I should do. I'm moving towards senior, but I'm not senior yet. But I would probably need to do that too. So
I'm going to do it when I leave because all I've had is coffee.
yes,
this
you
morning,
will. So
yeah.
everybody check to see if Ronnie made it back to wherever
Please,
he's
please.
going. So Laurel, your job as the education director is to educate,
Right.
and you educate senior population, and you also, I'm sure, go into schools and what other education?
So we have a number of programs that we administer to try to hit all different populations, because we know hydration and heat illness prevention is important for everyone. So I do go into the schools and speak with students. We have an elementary curriculum that we do, and they get a little squeeze bottle and a bookmark with information to help remind them of the things that they learned about hydration. We work with student athletes as well, because this is a big deal for them to make sure that they're staying hydrated and safe with the heat that we're having.
Is it football practice right
Yes,
now?
yeah.
Are they outside?
They are, and luckily there are a lot of regulations in place now that weren't in place when Kendrick played,
Yes.
where they do have to monitor the temperature and the humidity and kind of base their practices based on that. So thankfully they do have more of those regulations to help keep the athletes safe. Another big thing is there's a requirement for football teams to have a cooling tub on their sidelines.
Okay.
And those are used in cases of emergencies with a heat stroke. The best way to treat a heat stroke victim is to immerse them in cold water immediately. And so with football teams, we'll have those set up on their sidelines ready to go
Okay.
in case of an emergency.
Good. I can't believe they're doing football right now.
Yeah, and that's a good point that Laurel brought up. A lot of folks get confused with, so if you have if you're hypothermic, they say to warm you up very slowly. We want to warm them slowly. But in a heat emergency, it's the exact opposite. So if you're overheated, reaching the point of heat stroke, you want to cool them rapidly.
Okay.
So some folks can get confused with that.
Yeah.
They'll say,
Right.
don't cool them off too quick. But no, you want
No.
to. You want to cool them off very quickly.
Absolutely.
So if you get home and you're at that point, getting a tub of cold water.
Right.
And the popsicle thing works really well too. Not putting them in your mouth, but leaving them in the wrapper and putting them in your armpits.
Oh, okay.
And start that cooling process. If you got a loved one that's overheated, you can go ahead and start that cooling process and start getting them cooled down if they come out from working in the yard and
Right.
are overheated. And then you want to look for the signs of overheating. So the number one sign is you stop sweating. So if you're out walking, you've been hot, you've been sweating, and all of a sudden you're not sweating anymore, you're in an emergency. You're actually to the point where you're approaching heat stroke.
That's a 911 call.
That's a 911 call.
Absolutely.
That's a 911 call. So being able to recognize those signs, and generally, if you're with a loved one walking, being able to recognize that they have stopped sweating,
Right.
or that they're not quite making sense or something like that, or if they're just very pale, you want to go ahead and activate 911 and get us started. So
That's good to know. When I stop sweating, I'm in a heat emergency. I'm not even going outside these days.
yeah,
So,
you're not sweating right now, are you?
No,
Okay.
well, it's the lights.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sweating. I'm sweating right now. That's good to know, though. And I also know I was reading a lot yesterday about this, preparing for this, that, which made total sense. If you're inside, close the blinds, make sure your AC is working. If somebody doesn't have air conditioning or it breaks down, reach out. Please reach out. Reach out to the city and they'll connect you. I know that SALT, Seniors and Law Enforcement Together, we have a program where we can probably get you an AC unit. Just reach out. But don't use the oven. Close the blinds. Be cool. And the fans need to go, is it anti-clockwise or clockwise? See, I'm asking you.
I don't know.
It's a test. I think it's anti-clockwise.
Usually you can stand under it if you feel
Yes,
it.
yes.
It's going the right way.
Right.
If you're not feeling it,
Yes.
it's probably going the wrong way.
Everybody go stand underneath their fan right
Test
now.
it out.
So there's things that you can do. And please do check on your neighbors and check on yourself. And please please hydrate. But there's things that you can do. And I'm sure all of you know so much more than probably we do here about how to keep, because I hear stories from my husband of when Grandma had an ice block back in Oklahoma, and they never had AC, and they all slept in the house, and there was ice and a fan, a box fan or something.
Very
Yeah,
creative.
they were acclimated to it though.
Yes,
So they were
exactly.
used to that. Their bodies were used to that. We're not used
We
to
are
that.
not. We are not used to that at all.
So we just don't respond as well as they used to. They were a
Yes.
lot tougher than us.
They were.
Yeah, my grandparents were super tough.
Absolutely.
Well, and that heat acclimation that you brought up, that's a big thing too, especially with like athletes and stuff, or any of us when it's the beginning of the heat season and such, and we have to give our bodies a chance to adapt to that. And like with football practice, they say it's about 2 weeks that they need to be gradually working up to allow that heat acclimatization to
Yes.
happen.
Yes. Yeah. And so if you're a senior, if you're up there in your 80s and 90s and you remember really hot temperatures when you were younger, your body is not going to adapt the same as it did back then. So please hydrate. So Ronnie, any more good points?
I
Other than
think
stay in until the temperatures
yeah,
come down.
I think stay hydrated. You know, before you go out for a walk, make sure you drink until you pee, and make sure you drink until your pee is clear. And then you know you're hydrated.
Right.
Take water with you, just like Laurel was saying. Stay hydrated. When you get home, rehydrate. Again, you made all the good points.
Yes.
Thanks.
So that I love her advice. I think that's great advice, and that would definitely be endorsed by the fire department.
All right. You were endorsed by the fire department, Laura.
That's great.
Any other good points that you can think of?
I think knowing those signs and symptoms of dehydration and heat illness,
Yes.
which we've mentioned some of those, but others can include headache, dizziness, dark colored urine, fatigue, muscle cramps, all of those things can be signs. And so being able to recognize those signs, and when you are experiencing those, to then move yourself into the air conditioning and rehydrate, make sure you're drinking water. If you've been sweating a lot, drink a sports drink to replace that sodium, and just get yourself cooled down once you recognize those signs.
Right. And always, if it's an emergency, call 911.
Yeah,
Please.
and one more thing, again, that Laurel pointed
Yes.
out. I think it's important to talk to your doctor about the medications that she brought up that you are taking,
Right.
because they do can affect you in the heat. So make sure you talk to your doctor before
Right.
you decide to go on a trip to Arizona or a hike on Tanner Creek or
Yes.
whatever you're doing.
Yes.
Wherever you know you're going to be sweating, just to make sure that the medication is
Yes.
going to make you more predisposed to heat emergency.
Right.
And Lasik is a big one that we see that is a medication that makes you pee.
Right.
So if you're on Lasix and you're taking a high dose of Lasix, you're going to be more disposed to getting dehydrated because your body isn't able to hold as much fluid,
Right.
because the point of that medication is to get fluid off. So in those circumstances, you want to adjust accordingly per your physician.
Yes, it's important
Absolutely.
to read all those papers that they give you when you go and pick up your prescriptions. Don't just file it. Actually
Right.
take a moment to go through and see how medication may affect you. So, anything else to
point.
add, Laurel?
I don't think so.
I think
we've
all
covered
great
most of the high
points.
points.
So tomorrow it'll probably be an Arctic freeze,
Right.
but we should still hydrate anyway. Still hydrate, still exercise, still be very careful. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thank you to my guests. That was very informative. Everybody, don't drink your coffee. Drink your water. It's your weight divided by 2, and that's the fluid ounces. Okay, I will start drinking today. Thank you. Goodbye.
Senior Happenings has been a presentation of Bella Vista Community Television Association. DVDs of this program may be obtained by calling the station. You may find us on youtube.com looking at Bella Vista Community Television. Thank you for joining us.